Hey friends, welcome to Homegrown Florida. I'm Patrina and today we are going to be making some DIY skincare products, some of which contain items that we grew in our backyard garden. I have been waiting to do this video for a long time. I really wanted to start with skincare items when I started doing different kinds of medicinal recipes, which you can find down in my playlist for herbal remedies. But I wanted to wait until I had some practice, right? Making your own medicinals, making your own skincare kind of comes with a little bit of intricacy that you have to kind of develop. So I started out with the easier ones and now we have moved on to what I would consider intermediate. So hang out with me today while we make all these really cool skincare products. We're going to be making 4 different products today, and the first one is going to be body butter, and I found a really cool recipe online because it has 3 different ways that you can make this body butter depending on how many of the products that you have available to you. So the first way I believe is a 3 ingredient. It's just kind of like the oil, the shea butter, and a caking agent. And then it's got like a 5-way where you can incorporate more different kinds of oils. You can incorporate vitamin E oil to like make it a preservative or make it last longer. And then there's a 9-1, which is the one that I did, where you can add in scents and you can add in colors. So the first thing we added was shea butter, and this right here that I'm adding right now is a coconut infused calendula oil. This is a special thing. This actually came from my garden. Calendula was the very first medicinal plant that I grew in my garden for its medicinal purposes. I was told it's like a hippie neosporin, so I was like, oh, I want to grow that and see if I can make my own salve that is an antibacterial type salve to help with skincare, rashes, scrapes, those kinds of things. And I did. That was one of the very first things I ever made that was an herbal remedy grown from something in my garden. I made the oil by taking calendula flowers that I had allowed to dry just room temperature for a couple of weeks, and then I took those flowers and I put them in a very tiny little crock pot. It's like an individual crock pot that I used to use for work to like heat up my food, and I put some coconut oil in there, melted it, and added the flowers, and then I let it kind of cook in the crock pot for about 6 to 8 hours. I filtered out the flowers after that, leaving behind just the coconut oil that was infused, and then I allowed that to get to room temperature and it solidified, and then I can kind of keep it on the shelf for like a year that way. Another way is I will take the flowers and I will put them in an oil like olive oil, avocado oil, whatever oil that you have on hand. I don't necessarily use things like vegetable oil or corn oil. I don't think that those are good carrier oils for your skin. Then you leave it in that oil for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then you take the flowers out. So in this case, I'm using the coconut oil infused one that I made. I also added some sweet almond oil, some vitamin E, but you can definitely go with a 3 ingredient recipe. I'm going to put all the recipes down in the description so that you can try them out. The one thing I found very interesting with these recipes was that they were very small quantities. Normally when I'm following a medicinal recipe, there's not a lot of them out there, so you're kind of just trying what's out there and then seeing what works, but almost all of them are making these huge amounts of things. But when I started doing the skincare ones, I noticed that they're very small quantities. So it's just going to make 1 container. I got out like 3 containers expecting, that I might have to get out some more containers. But as I'm, blending it up, the shea butter with the almond oils and the coconut and then the vitamin E's, I'm realizing that there's not very much items in here. And I was like, oh my gosh, it makes a small quantity. It's actually really good, I think, because when you're trying these things out, if it didn't work out or it's a little too greasy, you don't want to sit there with like 5 containers of this stuff that's going to take you months to get through. You have this smaller container, and now that you know how you like it or whether the scent was good enough, whether you added enough cornstarch to it to get down some of that shea butter greasiness, you can make it a second time, making those slight adjustments. I always follow the recipe first to a T so that I can see how it's supposed to be according to the author who made it. And then I go and I make some changes. Like this is a change I would definitely make. Like I added some color here. This is a soap coloring, so it is designed for skincare. But I would probably instead of adding an artificial dye color like that, go with something more natural. Calendula flowers have like a yellow color to them, so it did already have that yellowish color, but if you wanted to make it something more, pastel-y, I would definitely go with like a butterfly pea flower. They're blue, and when they soak, they will either turn like purple or pink depending on the acidity of the liquid that they're in. And so you could make like a purple or a pastel or something, and I think pastel blue, I think it would be really, really cute. And all you would have to do is take those flowers and soak them in the carrier oil with the calendula flowers, and you'll get that tinted color. And I think that's a more natural way of creating color. Another one is they have cornstarch that I'm going to add at the end here to make it less greasy. This is a body butter, so it is like a lotion. So it is supposed to have some sheen to it. It is supposed to be moisturizing, but for me it was a little bit too greasy. And I kind of attribute that to the shea butter that I use. It's kind of a really greasy shea butter. Maybe they all are. Maybe it's the brand I got. I'm not really sure, but I definitely will use more cornstarch in the future to kind of bring that down. Another thing I really liked about this particular recipe was that it wasn't cooked. In fact, none of the items I made today in the skincare required like heating up the house with the stove. Typically, I have to do something with a double boiler, but this time I didn't have to do that. Everything is like cold pressed. It's items that don't necessarily need to be heated to be combined, which I thought was really great. Now, the negative side is they take a lot longer. Like, I feel like I was blending for like 20 minutes here with this hand blender, but it did turn out good. And if you notice here, I'm only using the one blender, what are those things called? Attachments, instead of two, because, there wasn't a lot of product, and also, it would get stuck in between them. It was a lot easier to use just one. One thing I might do is set the items together in this glass bowl and just kind of set it near my stove, and turn the light on, and not turn on the stove, but just enough to like let those things kind of melt a little bit next to a warm surface. You could also do this by putting it on top of your refrigerator where, it gets just a little bit warmer in your house. And some of that coconut oil and shea butter would be a little bit softened, but I was starting from cold stuff, so it was a little bit harder. Now, I absolutely loved this product on my skin. I put it on for shaving, and it is outstanding. It is my new favorite cream to use after shaving. The next recipe we're going to make is an anti-aging facial cleanser. And this recipe is really cool, but it calls for Castile soap. And I did this recipe kind of all wrong. I started right off the bat wrong, and I don't know what I was thinking. But you're actually supposed to combine all the ingredients together except for the soap. And you can see there that soap was the first thing I used and added it in. Now, I think the reason why they don't want you to add the soap until later is because of how it mixes. And I'll show you that at the end. But when it mixes together, it gets really creamy, and it also gets kind of sudsy, and you don't want to add the soap in until after it's done all of its mixing. So we added some of our calendula oil, that coconut oil. We're also adding some aloe vera gel. If you grow aloe vera, I should be growing it. I don't know why I don't. In fact, when I bought this house and we moved here, they had aloe vera plants, and I took them out. Don't ask me why, I have no idea, but this would be a great opportunity that you could extract the aloe vera from the plant and add that to this recipe versus having to buy a product. There's some other items in this one. A lot of them are repeats from the last one. We're going to be also adding some of that sweet almond oil, and it's also going to be calling for some citric acid. I believe that the citric acid is actually designed to keep the product, it's like a preserving agent. In the body butter that we just made, vitamin E oil was what our preserving agent was. And for this one, it's the citric acid. Now, the other thing we're going to use in this one that is a little bit different is xanthium gum. I can't even pronounce it. You also could use, I think it's called gar-gar or gar-gum. These are thickening agents. What we're trying to do is make a thicker soap. Otherwise, this would be very like liquidy, and we want it to be more creamy. So that's why we're adding these products in. These are naturally used thickeners. You can also use something like tapioca starch, which is made from the cassava plant. And down here in Florida where I live, I can grow cassava, and it's very simple to make it into a starch, which is just that you take the cassava if it's harvested, maybe shred it up or grind it up, and then dehydrate it in a dehydrator in an oven at room temperature for a period of time until it's super, super dry. And then you will grind it up into a flour. So that's another way that you can add item from your garden. Here is another way. This recipe called for a carrier oil, and I thought I could just use a carrier oil like an olive oil, or I could get really fancy with it and use another one of my infused oils from products in the garden. I had a citronella plant, or I have citronella plants. They're finally coming back after the winter that we had. And I had taken a bunch of citronella and I had soaked it in olive oil for 8 weeks. And the goal was to make a mosquito spray that was going to work to keep the mosquitoes away, but citronella doesn't really do that. So I'm trying to find other purposes for it, and this was a great one because it has like this citrus smell, and it's so wonderful smelling that you don't necessarily need to use fake scents or even essential oils. You can use your infused oil of citronella, which I thought was really, really fun. I put it all into a blender. Once again, this is where I realized that I was in trouble. I had blended it up with the Castile soap already in it, and it created such a thickness that I could not get this thing through my filter. I have one of these, oh, well, it's a funnel. It was so hard to get it in. It took me so long, so I cut a lot of that out. But you can see it's a beautiful soap. I tried it out, not on my face per se, but on my hands because I just wanted to test it to make sure to see if it was harsh. Because my skin is very, very sensitive, and it was very nice. It wasn't super lathery, but I wonder if that has something to do with the fact that I added the soap too early on. Maybe if I had added it later, it might have been more sudsy, but it was very nice. It was definitely cleansing. It felt good on my skin. It smelled beautiful. So it's definitely something I will make again, but hopefully I'll make it correct the next time. Now, the next item we're going to be making is a toner. Now, this one, I had so many ideas of how to do this even more natural than what it is. But the first thing it calls for a blood orange witch hazel. I couldn't find the blood orange that they were talking about, but I did find a pink grapefruit one. And all this is witch hazel, which is a form or a level of alcohol that has been infused with fruit. Now, I personally didn't want to go that route the first time because I didn't know if these had been done in a certain way, they've been made in a certain way that would keep the fruit flavor and smell inside of the witch hazel from going bad. So I wanted this toner to last for a little while. I didn't know how much I was making. And once again, when you're doing a new recipe, I kind of follow the rules. But I think that you could take like just standard witch hazel alcohol and infuse it with your citrus of choice. And I think that that would work as well. Now, the next thing it called for is another type of flavored, I think it's called hydrolysis. It's water, you guys. This is like, I think I did like, this is like a blossom water. And once again, you can infuse fruit with this, but I don't know if that would work very well because it could go bad, right? It's just water. It's purified water. It's distilled water. But I think you could do it by using something like a flower that smells really good, like roses, because roses aren't necessarily going to go bad. You can soak it and make like a rose water and use that, or you can use any kind of, flowering plant that isn't going to go bad in the water. I'm adding some lavender essential oil for scent. I definitely suggest adding a lot because the witch hazel itself has that real alcohol smell, and it doesn't really come out. All these flavors that they had, like the pink grapefruit and the blossom that was in the water, didn't come through with the witch hazel. Now, one of the things I'm adding right now, which is from my garden, is roselle. This is a hibiscus. It's a flowering hibiscus. It's the same flower that we use to make red zinger tea. I grow it every summer here in Florida. It is amazing. I love it so much. It is what we call the Florida cranberry. I let it soak for a few hours. I came back a few hours later, filtered out the dried roselle, and you can see that it made the tincture or the tonic so like pink. I was just so in love with it. But then I put it into an amber colored bottle, which kind of took away the prettiness of the pink. I wish I would have had a clear bottle because I think it would have just been so pretty. The smell of the roselle does come through, which is nice, but you definitely need to go stronger on the smells here. Definitely incorporating a lot of citrus, maybe even more of the roselle to get more of that cranberry smell, maybe even adding some citrus. Essential oils would have probably been better. It smelled fine. It just didn't smell as nice as I was thinking it would with all of these like flavor profiles in it. So once I have it in the bottle, now I'm just going to use a little pad to spray it onto. It's a toner, so you use it for your face. It's great to like clean off and get the extra makeup off your face or the oils, and get ready for cleansing. So this would go on before your cleanser that we made in the last one. And I think it worked really, really well. Definitely would increase the smell of it. This last one we're making is a mask, and this is going to be a dry mask. So I found a lot of recipes out there for masks, but I wanted to make one that I felt would keep for a long period of time so that, we weren't having to use it immediately. Like, who wants to sit there and have to make and measure a mask and then go use the mask? Like, it seems like it would be cooler if we could have, a product that was dry that all we had to do is add water to whenever we wanted to make a mask. So we started out with some oatmeal, and then we're using cannelin clay. Now this clay is also something that is used out in the garden to protect our fruit trees from pests. It's a clay that you spray, you get it wet and you spray it on the fruit trees and it keeps bugs away. We're adding some lavender flowers, and then this right here is some chamomile flowers. These are from my garden. Lavender doesn't grow very well for me here in Florida. I haven't quite figured that one out, so I did purchase that, but you could definitely just use the lavender buds from your plant. I break all that up together, and then you just kind of mix it up. You could put it through a blender if you wanted it to get rid of some of that oatmeal thickness, but I thought it would be pretty cool. I'm also adding some essential oil here. You can use whatever you want. I think I went with a cucumber melon. I thought that would be a fun flavor for that. And then all you have to do now is once you mix it together, you put it in a little mason jar or a little container. And whenever you want to use it, you just take like a tablespoon of the mask and a tablespoon of water, so it's equal parts, and mix it together until you get a thicker paste. Let it sit for a minute and let it kind of absorb. And then you're going to put that on your face and let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. I would start slowly, right? You don't know how you're going to do with the cannelin clay. Once again, I have very sensitive skin, so I used it very sparingly. I started with just a couple minutes, and then I would take it off, wash it off. And that seemed to be fine for my skin. I'm slowly working my way up to like the 5-10 minute mark, and it really does. It's really nice. The clay mixed with the oatmeal and the scent. I would probably add some more scent. As you're getting an idea here, I absolutely love the scents. I could definitely make everything scented even stronger. But this is a really fun one because you always have your mask ready. You don't have to have the liquid already mixed. You just add a little bit of water when you're ready to use it.